Hi, and welcome to the Scrapyard. I'm your host, Nathan Mulepolder, here with Taylor.
Howdy.
And Xavier.
Patient.
We're going to be talking about Stage 2, specifically the last week of Stage 2 of the Overwatch League, the big winners and the big losers. If you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, do that at Scrapyard Media. If you want to get in our Discord, link in the description below. It's down there. You can argue with us down there.
Do you come from a land down under? Women go and men wonder.
Let's get right into it. So, Stage 2, there were some interesting things that happened right at the end there. Atlanta defeated NYXL for a second time.
That sounds made up.
2 times.
I don't...
Twice.
What happened? I remember, Thursday's games. I remember yesterday's games. Sunday's games. There's, this middle part that's, real blurry. What happened?
I don't know.
Did Atlanta even play?
I think it was Atlanta Reign going 5 maps against NYXL.
Oh, man, that sounds...
And coming out on top.
Sounds like a bunch of luck. But it's a well-earned win. They did outplay the New York Excelsior.
I just think Atlanta Reign knows how to defeat them.
Listen, it's 2 games. All right. That's a lot of games in the Overwatch. That's a big sample.
It's just 2 games, he says, after the first game being like, it's just a game.
It was just a game. All right, listen. This lightning struck twice, but it will not strike a third time. Okay. Atlanta outplayed them. They looked better that day. However, New York is still a vastly superior team, and I refuse to acknowledge that that these wins mean anything.
I'm just gonna say what Dogman said. Get that Jonak player on our side.
Listen, man, I'm just saying. Dogman should play consistently good.
Consistently good.
Yeah.
He should play consistently good.
He looks nice, once a week, maybe.
Oh man, didn't they only play once a week?
No, they played twice a week before, babe.
Well, twice a week, yeah.
Yeah, so if he looks nice once a week,
Okay.
once every few. All right, listen, this is Atlanta. Just
rough week.
New York's a better team.
They had a rough week. They lost to the Charge and London, which, to be fair, losing to London isn't that big of a deal for a team like Houston. Just kind of
losing every game in a stage is kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
And with the Justice, when they're trash, you look at their roster and you're like, yeah, they're trash. Everything clicks. Your brain starts doing the equations and it makes sense. When your best player is Giannis and you got a bunch of other just dudes around, before they had Arc, you just had just a bunch of dudes. It was like, all right, yeah, you guys are trash. And, with the Valiant, when they flirted with being awful, it's like, you look at the roster and you're like, all right, you got, crazy talent. Let's look at last season. But then you're like, all right, well, you got your coach fired. You got, all this weird institutional issues.
Yeah.
But with Houston, it's like, you look at that roster, you're like, yo. This team had the record for most map wins in a row last year. And the roster hasn't really changed at all. The meta's changed, but, the roster is still the same. It's still the same talented group of players.
Yeah, they basically have all the same people they had last year with Dante.
Yeah, but now they're 0-7. And it's like, what do you do from here? Because their ownership clearly doesn't want to spend money, like Monte Cristo said.
Yeah.
Their ownership is stingy with their money. They don't hire coaches. They have a small coaching staff, and that shows when it hits a map 5 and Houston can't close out a series because they're poorly coached.
It's
and they're just relying off Dante and Muma and all this individual
It's also
talent.
just watching them when they, play. There seems to be literally no direction. It's like watching, Dante streaming. It's just that.
You're just playing on the ladder at that point.
Yeah, it's just, you watch them and you're like, oh, it's like I'm watching just a ranked game. It's not like professional Overwatch on a stage in front of people and on Twitch people watching. It's weird that they don't want to use the money that they have to get this team to be where it was last year.
Yeah. Like, if the story of Stage 1 was Washington being the worst team, and then Florida kind of nipping their heels and maybe ending as the worst team.
Yeah.
This is all about just Houston just looking pathetic. And I don't know what you do, because if you look at their roster, if you're talking about, like, actual trades, like, who's gonna, like, be like, yo, I want Raucus?
Mm-hmm.
No one's gonna say that. Like, no one.
I mean,
and they're clearly not gonna, like, get rid of Muma and Dante, because those two are the only people actually, like, trying. So it's like, who's
but
gonna
I mean,
want
whoever
Raucus?
does get Raucus gets, like, the thickest player in all of Overwatch.
That's true,
League.
and maybe some teams value that. Like, I don't know.
That's Overwatch League's ass.
So,
Now then, Shock at a 7-0 stage. They had 28 straight map wins, a perfect stage. I'll let you go on with what you're going to say, but I have something to interject when y'all are both done talking about this.
The San Francisco Shock are the best team in the Overwatch League right now, and Atlanta Titans are not the best team in the Overwatch League.
It's Vancouver Titans, not Atlanta Titans.
Sorry. I'm still
kind of mad from the Atlanta game, honestly. I was so confident in that.
You were so confident. And
We're done with that.
Talk about sure.
I know,
Okay.
but the Shock.
Yes, the Shock.
Okay, so the Shock is definitely going to win the playoffs. They're going to defeat Titans.
Yeah, that's spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. They're going to win. I just think out of the top tier teams, Shock is one of the funnest to watch. And like I was saying before, like just between me and you, the teams that always kind of go off of like that are the ones that I never think about anymore are like Toronto, Paris, which had a game this weekend and I don't even remember what happened.
Did they really play a game?
I don't even remember what happened. And then Vancouver, because they're all just like, Vancouver's just like, if they're the best, somebody has to beat them. And I'm like, it's not like they're not, like, they give up teams. They give up maps, and that's why it's like it's less impressive. Like if they were going for like the same thing as Shock, like let's beat these records, then I'd be like, oh, this is interesting to watch. This is like they're going for something, but it's just kind of like we're here, we're win.
But let's be fair, they're literally undefeated for almost a year.
Yeah,
they haven't lost in contenders.
Yeah, and they haven't. I'm not saying they're not bad.
They're going on months and months of just being undefeated. So, like, let's not disrespect that.
No, not at all. But I'm just saying, watching them in general.
Okay, real quick, I want to interject something. Would you care to pull up the stage 2, list of everyone Shock's gone against real quick? Because, it's pretty easy to have a perfect stage when you have it set up for you.
See, but I don't agree with that because Vancouver dropped a map to Houston. Like, the fact that they didn't drop maps.
Vancouver dropped a map to Houston, but Shock wasn't playing, willing to drop maps. They weren't willing to drop maps, but it's not hard to not drop maps against
And here's the thing.
No competition.
With that, there's things within this, win streak, because it's not like they've just had easy performances. If you look at the Philly game, they were on the verge. They were on the verge of dropping maps in the Philly game, and they just miraculously would clutch out these close performances against Shanghai. That was one of the closest.
Even the Rialto,
that was one of the closest
map.
4-0s that you'll ever see. And other maps, you look at their statistics, and they win a lot of team fights where they're the first. They have the first death.
I feel like
everybody is just so consistent, and if you drop one person,
I feel like an interesting thing also with Shock, looking at it maybe from at the very beginning of the year, and you looked at Stage 2 and you're like, oh, Shock has a really easy lineup. That was before Shanghai got their shit together, Spark got their shit together. All the teams that they played against came into that saying we're gonna try and push back against them because they didn't want to get 4-0'd, and you could see that even though Shock completely perfect staged the entire thing, you could see that the teams were like, we're gonna push back. And that just shows that Shock kind of is making other teams in the Pacific kind of hungry, and it's nice to see that pushback where Vancouver is just stomping on everybody on the Atlantic end, and you don't really see anybody like, well, we're gonna take them down.
Yeah, the Atlantic Division is like the NBA Eastern Conference when LeBron was in the Eastern Conference. It's just like, all right, we'll let them, no pushback.
Okay,
But the
yeah.
Shock are in a division where people are like trying to beat them, and the Shock are like, nah.
Okay.
Spark and
Well-
Shanghai both made the playoffs.
Yeah, they're solid teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First Chinese teams to make the playoffs. Rest in peace, Chengdu. But the Spark looked really nice against the Dynasty to win the game, or to get into the playoffs. I thought they looked great. I don't know if they're going to get out of the first round,
Yeah.
but actually just making it to the playoffs and winning that pivotal game against a Dynasty team that wanted to also win that pivotal game means something. And then the Shanghai Dragons, they've just come such a long way from
Who
where they
had
were
the-
in the first season, that like this is their first playoffs, and I could see them messing around and trying to have an upset
Yeah.
just based off of this being your first time and you're just excited and you're ready to prove something.
Yeah.
So I could see them like, messing around and winning
Yeah.
the playoff game.
It'll be interesting to see where they go. But where we're gonna go right now is to a sponsor.
Do you come from a land down under? Where women go and men wonder.
Thanks, sponsor. It's very nice of you.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Chengdu.
Now then,
The endangered.
speaking of Chengdu, let's speak about those endangered pandas.
They tried.
They tried.
But, okay,
They're your
so
favorite team, so.
Chengdu,
let you go ahead.
definitely not.
I don't
Not my
know.
favorite.
Every time we
Let's
talk about
look back
Chengdu, you
a
get
week.
hella excited.
Because they're interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
That's about it. So I get excited. I'm more excited about Spark and Shanghai. And then as soon as Chengdu starts winning again, then I'll be like, oh my god, Chengdu.
Chengdu's almost there.
Almost.
They're
They're almost there.
yeah. If
They do some. It's another thing where I kind of look at them playing and I'm like, and I've said this before, where I'm like, I look at them playing and I'm like, are they actually like trying?
yeah,
you
I
know?
mean that loss to the Valiant does not look good.
Yeah.
Does not look good on a resume. I would say. Like if they 4-0 the
And
Valiant,
all 5 maps.
yeah, if they 4-0 the Valiant, they might mess around and like make the playoffs. Yeah, I don't know. The Hunters, like I said, they just beat up on bad teams, and they might catch like good teams off guard. But I don't know, they just kind of like
I feel like they're just waiting.
uninspired.
They're just waiting for their shot at Titans. Sometimes, it's kind of like they're just like, well, we gotta try and catch these other teams off guard so that we maybe make it into the playoffs. So this wacky shit can actually work against the Titans.
I don't think
But I
it'll work.
don't think it I don't think it'd work. They're just
And their players have big weaknesses. Like
yeah.
Ameng on Reinhardt is not. It's not like he's great. Everybody loves him. His wrecking ball is awesome. But when they're starting him on Reinhardt and stuff, there's just a very clear skill difference between his Reinhardt and top tier Reinhardts, and that's something that you can't really do. And then what if things change to closer to like a dive or whatever, and maybe like Winston and Diva get more. That was an earthquake. And like,
Sorry.
Oh, that was Nathan.
That was me.
That was
yeah.
not an earthquake. Like,
That was my leg had a bit of a spasm there.
like, well, yeah, but
Honestly.
like, what if it's like Diva and Winston or whatever, and Ameng can't play Winston to save his life,
Oh
Yeah.
no.
and so it's like this roster, they're really good right now, and they're inconsistent, and they'll do well some weeks, do well other weeks. That's why they're a 500 team right now. But it's like, all right, you're fine, but what's going to push you over the edge? And I don't think they have.
They don't
They don't have anything that's going to push them.
They need to
over the
bring
edge.
someone in or get someone from another team that will be the actual main tank they need, because Ameng isn't solid on all these other tank roles. He's really good on
He's a good ball, and he's fine. He's like okay as Reinhardt. Like
Yeah.
he won't throw as Reinhardt, but he's not gonna do the little things that need to get done as Reinhardt.
Yeah, no, it's just they don't have that solid main tank. And I feel like if Ameng got the chance just to be kind of an off tank, something like that, where he can play that wrecking ball, and then you have a really solid like Winston player or a really solid
Roadhog player.
Roadhog.
Roadhog, man. You need a good solid Roadhog.
You know, we're going straight away from that. Seoul
Bring
Dynasty.
Taimu back.
Seoul Dynasty.
Seoul Dynasty. I don't like them.
What?
They're not playing Fleta.
Oh, yeah.
They are not playing Fleta.
Where's Fleta, actually?
That is a good question.
No, but, like, with Seoul Dynasty, like, I think they're good. But I think it's just because, you know, first year hype when they were, like, the Seoul Dynasty and they're, like, this unbeatable force. And then they just kind of ended up being, like, above average. They're still above average. When they face against the Titans, they just get ransacked and 4-0'd. When they face these top tier teams, they do not do well.
Can I just say something that I've been thinking about whenever
it's never been the case.
When we talk about like shock and all, like if we think of all the people who, like all the teams, all the players that were in the inaugural season, you can see that a majority of those original teams have like grown, they've traded, they've gotten better, and just in general, like shock ended on like becoming better, and then there was the break, and now they coming back with these like amazing, like record breaking moments. And Seoul Dynasty, it doesn't feel like when they had those that time in between the inaugural season, the break, and then like now, they didn't have any time together or improving their skills. It's just kind of like, we have the best Korean players, so
I mean, they don't have the best Korean players, but like, no, their roster is fine. Like, you look at it on
saying
paper, and you're like,
best Korean players with heavy quotations.
yeah, but you're like, y'all are good. Like that, like they're such a good team.
They have literally two teams sitting like at all times.
I don't want to say it, but like, they're gatekeepers. The Seoul Dynasty are the gatekeepers of the Overwatch League.
Go on.
If you can consistently beat the Seoul, if you can consistently beat the Seoul Dynasty,
you're good.
You're a good team, and you're going places. But if you can't get past the Seoul Dynasty, you're not ready for the big time. And it's sad to say because the Seoul Dynasty, you expect them to be so great.
We were talking about that hill like a couple of episodes ago. They're the ones sitting literally on top of the hill, like,
yes,
yeah.
They're the gatekeepers.
Pass.
Yeah.
Exactly, they're the gatekeepers of the Overwatch League.
A whole bunch of hobbits.
And I don't know. It's hard to say because you expect them to be great just based off of name value and like this weird reputation they've built as like a top tier team, but they've never had postseason success.
I think about this a lot because like the casters, they'll always bring up like oh my god, here comes Seoul Dynasty, they're this amazing team, and I'm always sitting there afterwards like, where?
Yeah, like where is it? You're getting forward by the best.
It's like, probably in Fleta, wherever he is.
Yeah, you should.
And it's also, it's like the idea with like NYXL, like they're an amazing team, but they actually are an amazing team. Yeah. Like when the casters hype them up, I'm like, no, that is a good team. But they do the same kind of hype for Seoul Dynasty, and I'm like,
yeah, like
it's not there.
Yeah,
okay, so earlier we were talking about Houston a little bit. Now let's do a little bit of compare and contrast between the completely winless teams. We got the Outlaws and the Mayhem.
Ooh.
Who's worse?
Mayhem.
It's a little more complicated, but I do agree. Mayhem.
Mayhem. Here's a weird thing. McGravy posted, former Mayhemite McGravy.
Rip McGravy.
He posted the wide eye emoji on Twitter, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's signing to the Justice," and that would be pretty cool because McGravy's a solid player.
Yeah.
And if he went on the Justice, he would look solid on the Justice, and then Florida would be kicking themselves.
And with Arc, Sleepy, all these other improvements, that would be a great improvement.
But Florida's, they're bad, but I wonder if it's like it's obviously like a talent thing, like you need to shore up some talent. But I mean, you look at like Saya player do things, you're like, okay, I can see where this team is mid tier because they have individual moments where you're like, oh yeah, damn, you don't want to go up against Saya player one on one.
That's a great player.
But also you got homies like throwing, you know, so it's like a weird mix, and they're not a good team.
I feel like Florida, all the other teams kind of are named after towns. Florida is just all of Florida.
The New York Excelsior.
That could be New York City. New York.
No, that's the state home.
That's the state.
Nice try.
Anyway.
You reached.
That was a...
Anyway,
You reached
no.
for the stars and you
Anyway.
landed among the
God,
non-stars.
man, that was rough.
Right in the space between them.
That was rough.
Right there.
F's.
That's me.
F in chat.
That was bad.
For
F in
McGravy.
Discord chat.
Discord chat. That was bad.
No, but Florida's just not good. They just have done. It's another one of those teams where I'm just like, I don't need to watch this.
No.
I can
They're very unnecessary.
prep dinner during this.
And they aren't on like the rise either. Like you look at Washington, they're bad, but they're on the rise.
When they switched over to the all Korean
Florida's
roster,
hopeless.
when they switched over to an all Korean everything, I was like, this is their chance. They're gonna be on the rise. But then they came in that very first game, and I'm like, you still are trash. Like, what is going on?
Things aren't going to change automatically, but
No.
like this, it's
But
not like
they
this.
still-
It's
get
not like
at
these
least
are all
better.
new to being teammates. Like they were
Yeah.
already on the squad,
There's something just
and
not
so
right.
something should work. I would love in the time between stage 2 and stage 3 next week to like actually look at like these trash teams and really try and like figure out what the hell their problems are.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In between now and the outro, we can look at this sponsor.
Do you come from a land down under? Where women go and men wonder.
Wasn't that an enjoyable episode and an enjoyable sponsor? You know, we've had a good time here, but we do have to leave because, you know, we got to record other episodes. But if you want to keep up with us, even when we're gone, you can find us on Instagram or Twitter at Scrapyard Media. And if you want immediate validation from us, immediate validation, you probably won't get it, but you can look for it in Discord down in the description below.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Roll outro.
Do you come from a land down under? Where women go and men